Buenos días, chicos. Espero que estén listos para aprender un poco de gramática hoy. Hoy vamos a terminar el repaso del pretérito. Entonces les voy a explicar un poco de gramática hoy. You should have out from your carpetas our master note of a master sheet of notes over the preterite. If for some reason you don't have this, go ahead and just download the Google Doc and you can fill your notes in as we go along. We need to go to the back page. So where you should be at is the preterite stem changing verbs. I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint and we'll go through this for you to jot a few things down. But today we're going to talk about, for about 3 minutes, this will be a short mini lesson like we've been doing all week, stem changing verbs in the preterite that are called sandal verbs. Now, you may remember from Tuesday, our lesson was a little bit about stem changing verbs. We said that AR verbs and ER verbs will not have a stem change in the preterite. So we have to remember that because that really is important and makes things much easier when we're thinking about stem changing verbs. However, we did not include IR verbs because IR verbs will have a stem change in the preterite if they are stem changers in the present. So again, take a look at that first bullet point or the second bullet point on your notes. IR verbs that have a stem change in the present will have a stem change in the preterite, but they only stem change in the third person singular, also known as the el, ella, usted form, and the third person plural, also known as the ellos, ellas, ustedes form. So jot that down on your master template of notes and let that sink in for a second. No stem changers with AR and ER verbs, but IR verbs will make a change if they are stem changers in the present. So we call these sandal verbs, and we'll see in a second why they have that name. And here's what they look like in terms of the stem change. If an IR verb is a stem changer in the present, it will also be a stem changer in the preterite. The E will change to an I and the O will change to a U. So those are the vowels that are going to make that change. So you may be asking, what are some common IR verbs that are stem changers? Well, you learned a lot of them in Spanish 2 and in Spanish 3. So let's go through and we'll review a few of those real fast. There's a spot for you to jot these down on your notes. We'll start with the verb to prefer, preferir. That's a common stem changing verb in the present tense, which means that we'll also have a stem change in the preterite. The E will change to an I. Now you notice here there are two E's. Which one is that's going to change? If there are two E's, it's always going to be the second one that'll stem change. So if I were to put this in the preterite tense, the yo form would have no stem change. The to form would have no stem change. However, the el, ella, usted form, that E would change to an I. Nosotros, no stem change. Vosotros, no stem change. But ellos, ellas, ustedes would have a stem change. That E would also change to an I. That's going to be the same for all the verbs we're going to see here. So let me kind of scroll through this. Most of these, again, you've seen before. So I'll let you jot these down as you're listening to me kind of walk you through these slides. Vestirse, I think you learned back in Spanish too. But it's a stem changing verb in the present tense, just like competir, so that means it will stem change the preterite in third person singular and third person plural. Seguir as well. All right, a couple more to review here. Pedir, we've talked about that verb quite a bit. To repeat, to have fun, divertirse, to lie is mentir. All right, those are all common verbs that would change E to I. What are a couple of common verbs that would change O to U? Dormir. Dormir means to sleep. We can also use that verb reflexively. Dormirse means to fall asleep. And then morir is to die. So what does it look like on a chart? Well, here's the verb pedir in the present. And as we know, this is a boot verb. And if we kind of imagine the boot going along here, we know that the forms of the verb inside the boot change. The two outside of the boot do not change. So that's the present tense. In the preterite, we have to make a stem change as well, and we call these sandal verbs because the stem occurs kind of on the bottom here, like a sandal would look like if we were to imagine a shoe on this conjugation chart. So the only change is going to be here and here. The other four forms do not change at all. So that's our mini lesson from today. To kind of wrap up, remember, AR verbs and ER verbs do not have a stem change in the preterite. Only IR verbs are going to have that stem change, assuming that they are stem changers in the present tense. If you have any questions about this, let me know. The next activity is going to take you back to Canvas. There's a short Canvas quiz to practice this grammar. Have a great e-learning day y nos vemos pronto. Ciao.